starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Peace and blessings, my family. And we back again for another beautiful brainstorming session. I am your host, Delano, and we're here for another reason, another reason to master our business, and just dive deep into some extra gems. As you guys know, if you've been rocking with us for the last few years, we love to bring you some great gems, some real life solutions, and we love to bring you, connect you with some beautiful people. So of course we have another special guest, but before we dive in, of course, I got to shout out our community. I got to shout out all of our members, all of our mentors, all of our advisors, and definitely shout out everybody in our Discord community. We've been growing. We've been sharing, some beautiful gems, and really connecting on a whole nother level. So if you're not in the Discord yet, make sure you guys hop on over. You can actually click the barcode on the screen, or you can actually, wait till the live stream is over. And click the link in our bio, and we'll be happy to welcome you into our community. That's what it's all about, man. Connecting the dots, connecting with beautiful people. If you're live with us, make sure you guys drop ready in the chat, and also drop your websites, your social media handles. You just never know who might need your solutions, who might want to just check out your business. We've had it happen so many times, and like I said, you guys know me, we're all about connecting the dots. We're all about community, and just putting together the right people, putting together the right puzzles, putting together the right pieces. Speaking of pieces, I want to definitely make sure you guys scan the barcode at the bottom of the screen. That's actually going to take you guys to our free business funding readiness audit. Especially if you just need more capital, you want to see where your business are, what gaps you have. If you've been getting denied for funding, definitely make sure you guys check out our audit. We're going to actually audit your business for free, let you guys know what type of results you have, what gaps you have, what gaps you need to feed, or what gaps you need to fix. And then we're going to actually, give you some recommendations, whether it's, our ebook, whether it's one of our programs, or if it's just something that you can get done yourself. Sometimes all it takes is a little information. Sometimes, we just don't have the information that it takes. Sometimes we just know and just get so wrapped up in our passion. So that's what our audit is all about. So make sure you guys scan that barcode, or you can go on our website, www.masteringnourbusiness.com. I can't wait. This last week, we probably audited over six or seven businesses now, and it's just been exciting to see that you guys actually care, to take it to that next level. And I love to see what you guys are working on at the end of the day. So I'm so excited. Like I said, we have another special guest. We have Nyia coming on in a minute. But before we dive deep into that, if you're just typing in with us, make sure you guys drop ready in the comments. Especially if you just, tired of doing it yourself, you need a village, or if you're already a part of the village, and you're ready to take it to that next level, you're ready for this powerful session, drop ready in the chat. So without further ado, I want to bring Nyia Harris on. What's going on, Queen? What's going on? Go ahead and unmute yourself real quick.
Delano, I told you I'm not super tech savvy. Sorry about that. My apologies. I know you told me that earlier.
It's all good. It's all good. Actually, you're not the first or the last person that's going to happen. So,
it's like, what? You can't hear me?
I love it. We're gonna keep the thing. We're gonna keep it going. I love it. For the people that's under a rock, let the people know who you are and what it is that you do.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you. My name is Nyia Harris, owner of Nyia Harris LLC, a professional speaking engagement business. I focus on hosting, moderating, emceeing, and facilitating. So I consider myself a little bit of a unicorn in the professional speaking space because I'm not a keynote, I'm not a motivational speaker. Think audience engagement, crowd participation, the person who brings the energy to the room.
You definitely got the energy. I love it. I love it. You bring me back to my radio days, man, in college. I love the energy. What really motivated you to get into this industry to really step out and put yourself out there?
Yeah, I was working for a small software startup. I made good money. I worked from home. There wasn't a whole lot of reason to complain. But let me tell you, death will make you reevaluate life real quick. I lost my father suddenly, and it woke me up. And it was one of those moments. It was get busy living or get busy dying, right? And so I had this in the back of my mind that this is something I wanted to do, but had a regular full-time job, and I was like, well, what am I going to do with that, But when my dad passed, it was like, okay, I need to, whatever I need to do, I need to make this happen.
I love it. Get busy living. What you say? Get busy living or get busy
Busy
dying?
dying. Yeah.
We might have to make that into some merch. I love that right there. I definitely can relate.
I can't take out the credit for that. That's one of those that just was out there, right? So.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's one thing that we do. We love to put out, different merchandise, different quotes, and just, put that energy out here. We really need it. It's enough negativity out. I love that you took a tragedy and turned it into a triumph, and built something, beautiful about that. And I know you're doing your dad proud, with that. I know that's something that he would love for you, and that's just strong, and man, that's just motivating for the most part. So I want to get into the how, for someone that's watching who's stuck in the hustle phase. What's the first system they need to install to move like a mobile?
Ooh, the first thing I think they need to do is you have to have a plan. A business plan. What is your idea, right? Is it a viable idea? Are people going to want to purchase your idea, right? Like, are people going to want to buy from you? So I think you really have to kind of flush that out. There are so many different resources that are available. I personally live in Minnesota, and I'm sure that's nationwide too, that if you're looking to start a business, try to get in touch with those entrepreneurial resources to help you get a business plan started.
Hey, and I always like to tell my people this is not scripted, because it's, even though we have so many different people on from different backgrounds, different industries, it always revert back to the same answers, back to the same confirmations. I talk about planning all the time. And this is one of the first things we do, when we, onboard a member. We go through their business plan. If they already have one, if they don't, we make sure we draft up one, because, we have to have a roadmap at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to get out here freestyling. I've done that in the beginning of my career, in the beginning of my journey, and I bumped my head a lot of times, until I really sat down and planned out my journey. It's crazy that I just updated, our 5-year plan the other day. And speaking of updating, how often do you think business owners should update their business plan?
Ooh, that is a great question. So, ironically enough, I'm getting ready to celebrate 3 years in business. Um, it's probably worthwhile to revisit it at least once a year and have a general idea of, like, what did you originally put down on paper, so to speak. So that would be my best advice, is to probably revisit it once a year. And if nothing's changed, you don't have to change anything, right? But if things have changed for you, then that's a great time to update.
Most definitely, most definitely. I think life. I think life, has showed us, you have to adapt. And I like that you brought that up. Things changing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's different for everybody. I usually say, every quarter, every couple quarters, depending on what industry you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Because life can change in so many different ways. Your business model may not change, but life around us may change. I think the pandemic showed us that. Um,
100%. I mean, even AI, right? That how prominent it is now, as opposed to even for me 3 years ago, that it wasn't as prominent. So how to incorporate AI into your business. I heard not too terribly long ago, if you're not using AI right now in your business, you're behind. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're behind.
Super behind. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm an AI advocate, and it's something that I love to bring up. When it comes to business owners, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who's scared of AI. We hear a lot of stuff about it replacing humans and all of that good stuff. What is some AI tools that you're using in your business right now, and how is that helping you out?
Delano, I knew you were going to ask me that. So, again, as I prefaced earlier, not super tech savvy, but I'm getting there. The main thing that I use, of course, is ChatGPT. So, just, even just using it as a tool, especially if you're a solopreneur, right? If you own your own business, you don't have like those team members you can bounce ideas off of. So to be able to just kind of flush ideas out through ChatGPT has been amazing.
No, ChatGPT. It's crazy because ChatGPT was probably one of the first AI tools that I was recommending putting people on. Now I've really been using Gemini a lot more, so you should probably check that out. Gemini is a great. I like to call her a part. She's one of our partners. She's part of the team. Um, for sure. I'll probably talk to her every single day. Not probably, I do talk to her every single day. And it's just a great tool to have. And I think, that's what we need to really understand. These things are just tools. The tool is only as great as the person that's using it.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, we can never be replaced as human beings. Now, some job positions may be replaced, but at the same time, we also have to think about all of the industries that AI has created as well. AI consultants, AI experts, tech, IT, different things like that we have to really understand. So it's super important for us to stay ahead of the curve. This is probably the best thing since the internet, especially if you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
It's definitely increased our productivity 100-fold in these last 3-4 years that we've been really using it. And we're probably up to like 114 AI tools that we've been studying, and 30% of our company is probably ran, by AI. We still have to keep, that human, interaction in place, like our live streams and and just mentoring our members, because that's one thing AI can't replace. The passion, and that connection between humans. I feel like so. This is my opinion. Who knows where I'm excited to see where it goes in the next 10 years, and man, I really can't wait. So
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. I mean, it makes life more streamlined, easier, right? And for to speak to some of those who say, that they're afraid of AI, right? That think about how you're already using it in your life, right? When you have Alexa in your home, I'm trying to say it quiet so it doesn't go off. If you um, being able to just kind of like create lists on your phone and things like that. Like there's so many ways that you're already kind of using it anyway. Hey Google, like on your phone, things like that. You're using it already, but you don't think of it as AI. So in the way that we're thinking of it today.
yeah, yeah, it's been around, before I was born. To be honest, and that's something else that we point out. Especially when cell phones first came out, you had autocorrect, different things like that. That's all AI. So I think that's something that we love to point out. I appreciate you pointing that out as well because we think this is something new, but it's been around, and we've been talking about it since the '80s. To be
Mhm.
honest, we just have all of the technology. We're ready for it now, on a whole new level, and I'm just excited to see. It's a race right now. It's a whole AI race, and I'm excited to see who's gonna win for sure.
Yeah.
So
And
real
it's,
quick,
and it's also the next big thing too, right? Like, there's a lot of people who want to get in on the ground level and say, okay, this is my opportunity to make some money here in this tech industry. So I'm gonna go for it. So that's something to be mindful of, I think, too.
yeah, we definitely got to get up on it. I have we did. I'm actually in the process of doing another AI master class with some of our stack developers who's really been in that industry for for years now, and getting them to understand, getting people to understand how to create your own software, your own AI tools, because the sky's the limit. I always ask people, if you could create your perfect AI tool, what would it be? And we've been getting some great feedback, some great data. Just coming back on that and just figuring out how can we innovate this tool and just work our way into this space, and I'm loving it. I love it. So I really want to get into I have a question for you. Was it a specific moment you realized your business needed better infrastructure? If so, what was the first thing you fixed?
Was there a specific moment that I realized my business needed better infrastructure? Um, no, no. Short answer.
Because I think you had your plan, right out the gate, right? You came up
Yeah.
with your business plan right out the gate. Yeah, I think that really helps. With me, like I said, I didn't do that. I got into. I've been an entrepreneur for probably about 17 years now. I got in really super young. I was a kid, so I didn't know anything about business plans, or just business. Period. I just wanted to get out there and make some money. And I think over the time, as you bump your head and you go forth, you really start to realize that, hey, I need to switch some things up. I need to change some things. I need to revamp. Even with our last revamp, it was time. I really wanted to, get more clear on who we were servicing, and make that more clear. So that was something that we really had to dive in, and that's what birthed the M.O.B. That's what birthed National Our Business. Because I realized, especially since the pandemic, I've been working with a lot of business owners, and some that, was forced into, being entrepreneurs, during the pandemic because they was laid off of their careers and different things like that. So we decided, I started to see the same common denominators. I call it the big three, which is, lack of capital, lack of, infrastructure and knowledge, and a lack of village. We all need that village sometimes, of reliable resources, people that we can rely on, mentors. Shout out to all my mentors that really took me under their wing, and it was just a blessing, for the most part.
Yeah. I want to jump back to what you said for just a second ago. So regarding infrastructure, right? I think because of the type of business that I'm in, right? There wasn't a whole lot of need to change or deviate from the original business plan, but I also don't have a tangible product, right? Right. I'm a service-based business, right? I am selling. What you see is what you get, right? This energy that you're getting virtually is also comes across very well in person. So imagine that in a room of 50 or 500 people. So I think depending on what industry you're in, that makes a lot of sense. That yeah, you would have to tweak what your infrastructure is, but being a service-based business, not so much, not so much. And I think if there was anything I tweaked, it was initially when I would have sit downs or one-on-ones with people to get to know people, because I'm such a people person and an energetic person, I would spend way more time than I allotted. So if a meeting was scheduled for a half hour, it'd go to 45 minutes or an hour. If it was scheduled for an hour, it'd be an hour and 90 minutes, and I'm like, I need to put the brakes on that. I need to tighten that up a little bit. So I think that's one thing I think I can speak to that I did tweak. I was like, nope, I can't do this all day. I can't have 6 meetings that go an hour plus a piece. That's not good business sense.
No, I totally agree. I think I had the same problem, because I'm so passionate. Especially, it depends on who I'm talking to. Too, if I'm talking to somebody and we just connecting right off bat, yeah, we can definitely run that time up. So that was definitely something that I had to really crunch. I could definitely relate for sure. I love that. I love it. So if you guys tuned in, if you just tuning in, we are talking with Nyia. It's super important for us to really connect with like-minded individuals. I know a lot of you guys are taking our audits right now, and figuring out how to really get your business to the next level, and that's what it's all about. At the same time, make sure you guys check out our Business Credit Ain't Scary, the guide to getting it back legally. That's one of our ebooks that we have available right now. And it's a super powerful ebook. It's not one of those things that you just want to read and put to the side. It's actually interactional. And it's going to put you in a space to really put your money where your mouth is at the end of the day. And we want you guys to not only just read this ebook, but put some action forth. Check out some of these boxes. It's giving you a lot of great information. We're not, wasting your time with a lot of long, crazy jargon. We're getting straight to it. And it's viable. If you're building something great, it's super, super, super viable. So real quick, I want to move on to a mutual win, right? We love to give people something for it to look forward to, and we focus on low risk positioning to get business bankable. From your seat, what's one high risk mistake you see entrepreneurs make? That keeps them from scaling.
Ooh, that is a great question. One high risk mistake that entrepreneurs make early on. Oh my gosh. There's it's so many things, right?
Definitely.
Maybe like, so, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart, right? And if you are, entrepreneurship usually come from very humble beginnings, right? Unless you just have a rich uncle who gave you $1 million to start your business, but that's not most of our stories. So I think the mistake I have personally seen is people using funds that they really didn't have for things that they think that they thought that they needed to start the business. And that's where what you said earlier and what I said earlier about using those resources that are available to you, those entrepreneurial resources that are available to you. Talk to people, network, ask questions, right? Try to learn from others' mistakes so that you don't make the same mistake. Because if that's a really tough thing, right? To not have funding, as you alluded to earlier. You're talking about where you can find funding and things like that, and you don't want to spend money that you don't have on something you don't need.
And I did it a lot in my in my career. I bumped our heads a lot. I think having mentors is super important. That's one of the main reasons why. I think that's one of the main value that people get from our program. Is that we mentor you, we walk you through. We don't just show you how to get the money, but we show you, we put together a strategy. We show you how to, where to put the money to where it's going to multiply, instead of helping you get a line of credit, or helping you get a loan, and then you're off, and then you blow that money, and then now you're in debt. So it's super important for us to teach our community the difference between good and bad debt, which I didn't know anything about that. I'm coming from the inner city. I'm just a young black boy from Detroit, and I really didn't know anything about that side of it. I just heard the bad side of debt, right? Everybody I knew was in bad debt. So that's something that I learned throughout my career, and something that we pass forward. Really getting people to understand. Okay, once we get the funding, what are you going to do with it then? That's something that we ask in our audit as well. What are you going to do with this money? And it's super important to understand. How are we going to really advance your business? Because that's what it's for. And that's the same thing with the lenders. Most lenders want to know what are you even doing with this money? What are you doing with your business? Why is it even important? Most investors, that's the first thing. I talk to a lot of investors, and I ask them, what is the first thing that you look for, before you make an investment? And that's one of the things they want to know, the cause, the story behind it. They want to know the person, behind the business. What are your goals? What are your views? So that's super important for us to really understand and have these plans. Go back to planning. This is something that you should have in your business plan as well. How much is it going to cost to really run your company, and how are you going to make that money back? How are you going to multiply that money? And so forth and so forth. So it's super important for us to understand that, don't just go out there and get the money and just blow it, or, and not have a plan, not have a plan of action. And that's why we have our M.O.B blueprint. That's why we have our programs, to make sure you're just not doing it alone. I've done it alone. I bumped my head a lot of times. I've seen a bunch of, entrepreneurs do the same thing. They try to do it alone. You need a village at the end of the day. So again, if you tapped in with us, make sure you guys drop mobile in the comments, blow up the chat. Also, drop your social medias, drop your websites. We want to see what you guys are working on. This is what it's all about. And if you guys have any questions for Nyia, make sure you guys drop them either in the Discord if you're already in our Discord community, or just drop them right in the chat. We're live on multiple different platforms. We're live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and so forth and so forth. So continue on blowing up that chat. I see you guys. So real quick, Nyia, what is the biggest lie people in your industry is telling entrepreneurs right now, or just telling in general?
Ooh, the biggest lie that people specifically in my industry or just in general?
It could be both. It could be either or. That's a good question. Either or.
Hmm. The biggest lie. Um, I don't know if anyone's really saying this, but well, you know what? Actually, maybe. So remember, I said a moment ago that entrepreneurship's not for the faint of heart, right? It's hard. It's hard. You're not gonna just jump out here and then just you make $1 million. Like, no, it takes time. It takes work. And you have to be prepared for those the peaks and valleys, right? There's a lot of this, right? There's some high highs, but there are definitely some low lows. And can I just be honest and transparent with you? Today's Friday. So Tuesday, Wednesday of this week, I was having a low. I was like, I don't know. Can I still do this? Like, you know what I mean? Like a real like come to Jesus moment, if you will. I really was kind of reevaluating things. Thankfully, I'm in a much better spot, but I really had to think about that. And again, I'm about to be 3 years in business. My business anniversary is coming up really quick. But you have to really kind of strap in and say, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, right? There's no turning back here. Yeah, I think that's probably the lie I would say is that, thinking that it's not going to be hard. It is the outside of raising my kids, this is the hardest thing I've ever done.
I tell people that all the time. It's not for everybody. It's
Yes.
not for everybody, and that's okay. It's okay if you're not, an entrepreneur, or you're not entrepreneur worthy, or you're not. It's not fit for you. And that's what we're doing here. We're trying to not only help people get their business off the ground, but we're creating jobs as well. Somebody need to, work for these companies. Somebody need to work for these future moguls that's, building their companies as well. So it's super important for us to understand that. I tell people, we try to get away from the fake mogul and all the fake motivation. You can look, it's not for everybody. Everybody can't come, and that's okay. I'm super glad that you pinpointed that out, because it's something that I talk about all the time. I let people know, are you ready for this? And I think that's, it goes back to the planning phase too. Once they see that business plan, once they see everything that they have to do, because I think sometimes we get caught up in our passions, right? You just think about what you're passionate in, what you want to do, what you enjoy, and then you don't think about all the other steps, all the other hats that you have to wear as an entrepreneur. So I think that's something that we pinpoint early on, so we can prepare and mentally prepare, because it's all mindset, as well. Mindset is super important. That's why we touch on that in one of our modules. And it's not just about making the money. Even the why. Remembering your why is super important as well, because that'll keep you in the game on those low days where you want to give up. You have to remember your why. Why are you doing this? And if you can't figure that out, you really want to dig deep and reevaluate some things and figure out, why are you doing this, and why should the world care at the same time? Because everybody just not gonna support your business just cause. I think we're out of that phase where people are just selling. That's why when we do our social media management for our members, it's not just about posting the product. It's about telling a story. When we do our interviews, when we do our exclusive interview commercials that we shoot for our members and for other business owners, it's all about telling the story, telling the why, telling the background, because that's what people was into. People buy you. Mm-hmm. They don't care about the product, for the most part. They buy you, and then they care about what the product is doing for them. Mm-hmm. So that's super important. That's something that we try to pinpoint. So real quick, I grabbed a question from our Discord, and one of our members said, I applied for a small business loan at my local bank and got denied immediately. My revenue is decent. What am I doing wrong? Hmm, that's a great question. You got any answer for them?
Yeah. Uh, so when you're first starting out, um, I believe they want to see like 2 years, like at least 2 years that you've been in business. So I think that would be the first question would be to answer your question. My first question back to you would be, how long have you been in business? And then there are so many other alternatives to banks. I mean, banks are great, right? But there are alternatives to banks if you do get denied. I believe it's called CDFI, if I'm not mistaken. You'll have to fact check me on that, Delano. But there are other resources that are available to you besides banks. Um, and then also, if that is not an option for you, connecting with those supporters, who are your supporters, right? How much do you need and who are your supporters? Because those who really support you will find a way or try to put you in the right direction, so that you can get the funding that you need. So don't I can't stress that enough, and I know you've mentioned it a number of times, Delano, but like really work those resources, right? Do you just need $1,000? Because if you have 10 friends, right, then 10 supporters with $100 a piece, that's $1,000 right there. But I think really and truly is, you got to work those resources. And again, I'm in Minnesota. I know that that's the case for Minnesotans and entrepreneurship. I'm curious about other states. Is that kind of the norm? Do you need to be in business 2 years? Have you found that in your state, Delano? Or
Yeah, to be honest, banks, they're not in the business of, funding your dreams at the end of the day. They're in the business of making money. So, they want to make sure that you have an actual business and not just a hobby. So a lot of the times, they want to see, some skin in the game. Banks don't lend to busy businesses; they lend to compliant businesses. Most denials happen before, the banker even look at your revenue because, low risk, because of your low risk positioning, is off. And most of these banks, they have automatic AI bots who, audit your business. They go off a certain compliance, a certain compliance list, and they automatically deny you, without anybody, a real person, even looking at your business. So this is something that, I always stress, to business owners. This is really one of the main reasons why we created the business readiness audit, to, make sure people have all of those boxes checked off when it comes to compliance. Because you can have, for example, I see a lot of people who do our audit, a lot of businesses that we audit, they might have their LLC, their EIN, but they may not have a business address. They might not have a business phone number. They might not have a business email. These are some of the things that a website is huge. So these are some of the things that, will get you automatically denied when it comes to banks. You spoke on a very important topic that I also talk about as well, even within our ebook. Finding alternative options. The bank is just not your only option. That's not, especially if you're a new business. I wouldn't, go to a bank for a loan. To be honest, it's lines of credit. Like you said, crowdfunding. I see a lot, especially tech. I work with a lot of tech companies who do a lot of crowdfunding, angel investors. There's so many different programs out here as well. Grants. There's so many grants that's out here for certain individuals, especially for minorities, especially for women. It's a lot of grants out here for minority women. And I think you just need to really tap into your community. Who were you before you started your business? Tap into the people that you might have that rich uncle, right? You might have that that you can provide a presentation to, put together a presentation for, and make them understand the solution that you're trying to provide to the community. So it's so many different ways to access capital. And we have to be open-minded. We have to be transparent, and we have to be real with ourselves at the end of day? Where is your business at? Is it just a hobby, or is it actual, business on paper, right? So
Mhm.
that would be my number one thing. This is something that we talk about all the time, and this is something that I'm seeing. The more businesses that we're auditing, I just had a business that we audited the other day, and it was like, man, I had everything on this list except for listing my business on 411, or
Mm.
having a trade line, reporting to Duns and Bradstreet, different things like that, small things like that, will get you automatically denied and keep you in hindrance. So you want to really figure out where you stand on paper. You can, and these are people. I've audited people that have been in business for 10 years who didn't have these things, right?
Yeah.
Because they have clients, they have, some of them have brick and mortars, different things like that. But it's kind of hard to raise that capital and get that capital when you don't have the back end together. So that's super important. That's something that again, I didn't know. I'm not trying to come up like I'm just this know-it-all. I knew all of these things. It took me years and years of bumping my head and getting with the right people to learn these things. And it's nothing. It's nothing new. These are this is nothing. Even with our ebook, the things that we're talking about in business credit ain't scary. It's nothing that we made up or nothing that's new. These are things that people been doing. These millionaires, these billionaires, they've been playing this game. And if you don't know if you don't know the pieces that you need on this chessboard, you're not going to win the game. You have to understand each piece that you need and how they move, and how you can utilize them in this thing called chess, in this life called chess. So hey, I think that would be my biggest thing, and that is our biggest thing when it comes to infrastructure, and making sure that you have a fundable business, a fundable asset, asset over liabilities.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
definitely.
real quick, we don't, our brainstorming sessions is not just about streaming, going live, people watching our videos. It's not about views. I really want to see people, put, action, put action forth and actually get out here and do some things. We're all about taking action. What is one mobile move our audience needs to complete in the next 24 hours to a week to see results?
For existing businesses,
Yeah, it could be. That's a good question. I should add that. Yeah, that's a good question for either for an aspiring mobile, because I know some people out here that may be watching who may be thinking about starting a business, or if they already have a business. What's one assignment that you believe for them?
yeah, I can speak to both of those. So I think for someone who's aspiring, right, I think that um, first and foremost is you have to decide for yourself. You said it a moment ago, is this a hobby or is this something I really want to do, right? Is this really a business that I want to put my heart and soul into? And if that's the case, right? And I think the way to find that out is, are you prepared to eat, sleep, breathe that business? And if you're not, then it might very well be a hobby, right? I think for existing businesses, it's all a matter of maybe taking an account of where you're at. You might be doing quite well. There's not a whole lot to do right now, but you got to be kind of thinking ahead, like, okay, well, is this sustainable for the next year, the next 3 years, the next 5 years, right? Because the whole idea is to scale. It's not to just to stay stagnant. And I think if you are a person who has an existing business but you're struggling, again, it goes back to what I said and you said as well. Tap into those resources. Like ask your network. Hey, I'm struggling with X, Y, Z. How can what solutions do you possibly have, or do you have connections for me? Work. It's important to work the plan, but also plan the work. Right? Plan the work, but work the plan.
That's another shirt.
Also not mine. Also not mine.
I, I love it. I love it. I love that quote right there. Hey, you guys heard her. You got some work to do. You got some assignments. You have your assignment. Hope you wrote it down. If not, you can always, check out the recap. It's definitely going to be playing on Mob TV. And this is a powerful session. I appreciate you, Queen, for just taking the time out of your busy schedule and dropping these gems, giving our community an assignment. Once you guys actually, complete this assignment, make sure you guys post your results in our Discord community. We love to see your results. I always say this every time. These assignments are not for us. At the end of the day, it's for you. These are things that you should be doing already. An assignment that I will leave you guys with, you already know. Make sure you guys audit your business, right? I actually came up with a great way for you guys to audit your business as well. It's called the Ghost Check Audit, right? I want you guys to reach out to somebody in your community, one of your friends, family, and have them audit your business. Have them go through your website. Have them check out, your company as their, as if they're a client, and give you some real feedback, right? That's what it's all about. Sharpening your tools, sharpening your knives. So make sure you guys, complete this assignment for you at the end of the day. Again, this is something that you guys should be doing anyway. Again, I appreciate you, Queen, for just, dropping these jewels, getting on. My family, I appreciate you guys for, tuning in and just wanting to be great at the end of the day. So we just spent, this last brainstorming session dropping heavy gems. I know your notebooks is probably full again. I know your brains is probably a little overwhelmed. That's okay. That means we did our job once again. So we want to make sure, at the end of the day, you guys are just moving forward. And remember, you don't have to do this yourself. You always have my community. Like Nyia said, reach out to your community, the people that's around you, and figure out how they can actually support the mission, and figure out what's in it for them as well. That's the biggest thing. You really want to figure out how you can actually, what problems are you solving in this community, and why should people care? And hey, again, if you don't want to do it yourself, if you need a village, the M.O.B family is always here. Make sure you guys join our Discord. And if you're already a member, you will definitely have your mobile notes, your outlines. So be ready to hit those portals soon. We'll have some great clips for you guys, and the assignment for today from Nyia. And if you haven't joined yet, make sure you guys, take about 60 seconds out your life. Our audit is only 12 questions, you guys. 12 questions. And we'll get back with the results between 24 to 48 hours. Sometimes we get a little bit behind on audit, so make sure you guys give us some grace. But best believe we'll have those results to you. We're going to audit your business for free, and let you know what gaps you have, what gaps you need to fill. And yeah, continue on being great, you guys. I'm going to continue on building with you guys. And yeah, if you have any more questions or concerns for us, make sure you guys post them in the Discord group, and continue on being great, you guys. Until next time, my family, I'll see you guys later.